Decomposition of sodium bicarbonate. Our objective is to evaluate a decomposition reaction and determine the stoichiometric relationship. So again, we're practicing our skills from class. Hypothesis. Take time to think about the process or the reaction for the decomposition of sodium bicarbonate. What do you expect to see? Safety. Wear your goggles and maintain a safe lab space. Things to think about. Thermal decomposition of sodium bicarbonate will occur rapidly at 200 degrees Celsius, but the solid product of the decomposition will begin to decompose at temperatures over 850 degrees Celsius. So think about how hot those Bunsen burners run. Controlling your level of heat will be imperative as you do this lab. What type of data will you collect to help prove the reaction? How much sodium bicarbonate will you need to use? And how will you know that carbon dioxide, oxygen, or water is produced as a gas? How will you collect the data? How long will you need to heat the substance? How will you empirically determine when this decomposition of sodium bicarbonate has occurred? How will you reduce error? How will you analyze the data? What type of calculations will you need to make? How will you know that you chose the correct chemical equation for the reaction? And how will your group consider the precision of the balance in your analysis? These are all things to think about. And in your lab, I've included a little bit more background information for you about things to anticipate with this decomposition reaction. So I'm going to have you working with two substances. We're going to be working with sodium bicarbonate, and we'll also be working with sodium carbonate, because sometimes you'll have a question of, well, what's the difference between the two? So we'll be performing an activity on A and B of the procedures to look at that, and then day 2 will involve the use of the crucible. So our first step, we need to acquire a substance. We're going to get our scale, we're going to zero it out, and then we're going to obtain a certain amount of sodium bicarbonate. So I'm going to recommend between 2 to 5 grams of the substance. Whatever I get for grams here, so if I get 3 grams of the sodium bicarbonate, when I do procedure B, I will get the same amount of grams of the sodium carbonate. So I'd recommend weighing and recording the mass of your test tube. Okay. Then we're going to place our solid in the test tube. I'm going to weigh it, and it should be the two masses put together. And we're going to record our measurement onto our table. All right, so we've placed our test tube onto the test tube clamp. We've adjusted the height of our Bunsen burner. We've lit it, and we're going to place it underneath our substance. I'm going to adjust it down just a little bit more. And we're going to wait. We're going to look for observations and record all our observations as we watch them. So when you think you've completed this part right here, you're going to allow it to cool and then reweigh at the end. I recommend to repeat a second time and verify your results. And that can include either reheating a second time here or repeating with the second run completely. Your choice, I will let you select. Procedure B. So this time around, we are getting sodium carbonate. Make sure you read the bottles carefully. Okay, so we need to clean our crucible before we begin with. And we will actually clean both lid and bottom. To hold this, you've got to kind of learn how it works. These are crucible tongs, and you've got to learn how to pick up without dropping. So this may take a little bit. But notice I'm going to turn it over like this. If you don't feel very confident with that, you can always do this for the heating process. And we're going to simply stick it in there. The lids only need to go for about 2 minutes. Okay. We're going to heat that. So to clean our crucible, we're going to use heat. It may look clean to you, but you need to go ahead and make sure we do this step. So you're going to take your crucible tongs, grab your crucible like so, and just stick it over the fire. Okay. We're going to do what's called curing it. And you need to sit here and cure it for 5 minutes. Once your 5 minutes are done, you're going to place it back, not on this, but on our heat resistant table, away from anything that can break it. Allow it to cool down. Now, how do I know when my crucible's cooled down enough that I can start working with it? It's really simple. If you can't put your hand around your crucible without being burned, it's too warm. Simple, simple. So once it's cooled off enough that you can handle it in your hand, then we need to weigh it. And so we do have weighing paper on the scale. We'll simply place our lid on there. We're going to weigh it and record it. And then here's my crucible. Again, I can hold it in my hand so it's not too hot. Place it on the scale, weigh it, and record it. We always weigh the two parts separately in case you break a lid or a crucible. Okay, so before I do my next step, I'm going to make sure that I have this set up properly. So I'm going to stick my crucible in there. It's got enough height and it's got enough down here where if I do this, it's not going to fall. Okay. If you feel like you don't have enough, then you can go ahead and we can just spin this out a little bit more and it'll sit a little bit further down for you. Okay. But this is how it should be positioned with the clay triangle and the ring. So we're going to weigh out our sodium bicarbonate. And I'm going to zero it out now. If you want to, you could get a total mass of the crucible and the amount you're putting in there. That's fine if that's easier for you. But I'm going to put in 3 grams, which is the same amount that I worked with in the both test tubes beforehand. So if I'm at 25.1, I need 28.1. So okay. So now we're ready to start this. So we can put the lid on there to start off with. We can put on there partially. And then place our Bunsen burner underneath it. And we're going to heat it up. Okay. The reason you would like to do it like this is in case you do need to remove your lid a little bit. If you set it up right, it'll sit right there on your triangle. Okay. Sometimes we want to cap our crucible to build up some heat. Okay. So we're controlling the heat with the lid. So you may want to partially have it on there, or you may want to have it on there completely. That is you and your team's decision on how you want to do it. But we're going to heat the substance. Then we're going to cool the substance, heat it again, and cool it again. And then once it's all cooled, we're going to weigh again. So just as before, when I'm doing this experiment, I will have to look in here to see what changes have occurred so I can figure out when I'm done heating. Once I get it all done, I can leave it here to cool, which is probably the best thing for you, or I can put it on the table. I'd recommend just leave it there, and the way to check to see if it's hot enough or cool enough, you should be able to bring your hand around and you'll feel if it's still warm. Just from like this distance here, I can still feel it's warm. So the long part will probably be you having to let this cool down because it's going to be very hot. I would encourage you not to burn yourself with it. Okay? Allow it to cool. Once it is cool enough that you can touch without burning yourself, put your weighing paper back on the scale, zero it out, and place it on there. Record what you have. Okay? Dispose of everything in the waste bucket. As always, you'll simply dump your contents of your crucible out and leave it at your station for the next team. Great job. Live long and prosper.